Welcome back
It's
to
sick.
episode burp 12 of Shack Out Back. Hello, Dan. How are you doing this fine late night?
Hello, Jim. Yeah, it is a pretty late night. Late night for recording. Busy couple days, but now we're going into lockdown in our good old province of Ontario, so...
We've gone, Jesus has risen, and we're going into lockdown.
Yeah. Easter lockdown. Third one in Ontario because our government's not doing a fantastic job of handling what's happening.
Because Doug Ford is a fucking idiot. There we go. Politics in our show.
So,
Politics.
that's that.
Anything interesting going on? Are we doing the biweekly breakdown, or should we say other stuff before we start?
What other stuff needs to be said? COVID third lockdown. Be ready for biweekly breakdown that just says, I've been sitting at home. I've been
sitting at home picking my... Well, it's different this time because we're not doing a lockdown in the middle of fucking winter where you can't do anything.
Yeah, you can go outside now at least, which is nice.
Yeah, I guess I'll start, but like today even, today I was outside all day. I set up my new tent and I set up my cot in it, so I'm ready for camping day, our camping trip.
How's that? Tent's big?
Tent's big enough for my cot. So my tent is big enough for my cot, but my tent's not big enough to set up my cot while it's up. So I have to So I set up the tent and I was like, oh yes, the tent's up, great. And then I got my cot and I couldn't get my cot up because you have to like ring it out basically when you're putting it up.
Okay.
So I had to take down my tent, build the cot inside of it, and then put the tent back up again.
Jesus.
But other than that, it doesn't scrape the sides or anything, so it's good. Other than that, biweekly breakdown. What have I been doing? I've been buying some PS3 games. I bought Killzone 2 and Resistance 3.
Why have you done such a thing?
Because the PS Store is
yes.
being shut down. So those games are going to be $1 billion in 6 months.
Would you get Killzone 2?
Yeah, I bought them both for $2 each.
Those are good ass games. I really liked the Killzone series, and I really liked the Resistance series too. It's kind of weird they haven't really done anything with those.
Well, Insomniac wants to do other stuff, and I don't know who makes Killzone, but Killzone Shadowfall wasn't exactly fucking a star-bursting game when it came out.
Wasn't that a PS4 launch title?
Yeah, and people didn't like it. But, I mean, I've heard that the multiplayer is still pretty popular, but people didn't like it when it came out. Other than that, I finished The Next Generation, and the ending was very good. I started watching Voyager a little bit, and Star Trek Voyager is there's really, really good episodes. I'm on the second season now, I think. Really, really good episodes, but it's, you know how the first episode of TNG we talked about, it's just not good?
Yes.
Okay, so Voyager episodes are this one's really good, and this one is fucking stupid, and I hate it, and they go up and down like that, like a huge, buy scale like that. It's so dumb. Show's good, though. Other than that, I've been watching more Shudder movies. I started watching Longmire, which is a procedural cop show about a sheriff with guns. Yeah. Started watching that on Netflix. No, it's on Netflix. It's literally just a boomer-ass cop show.
Oh, good lord. Like Blue Bloods or any one of those
No, it's
shows?
It's this small-town sheriff dealing with, small-town sheriff problems, people getting murdered and human trafficking, stuff like that. It's good. I like it.
Walt Longmire is the dedicated and unflappable sheriff of Absaroka County, Wyoming.
Yeah.
Widowed only a year, he is a man in psychic repair.
It's a cowboy show. It's about Cowboys Day. That man, too, the man who stars as Walt Longmire, has the weirdest fucking body I've ever seen on a human man. So, babies, you know how babies have, their torsos, crunched in? They got, a big puffed out belly?
Yes.
So he has something like that. He's so fucking tall, but he has a baby torso where it sticks out so weirdly. The man looks like a seal.
Huh.
Other than that, I'm trying to think what else I've been doing. I finished the DLC for The Outer Worlds, and so did you.
Oh, me too. Yes, I did too.
I'm going to stick with what I said to you before, where I think I liked playing this one more, Murder on Ariandros. I liked the storyline and stuff a lot more.
Yeah,
but I liked the ending of Paralon Gorgon more.
Yeah, it was tough for me. Paralon Gorgon was definitely a lot more of the same, and I had fun with it because a lot more of the same is not bad, but I liked that they tried something different with this DLC.
Yes.
I think I wanted them to do more with the weirdness of it. They almost went into it with I can't really say much because it's so new. Spoilers, but I wanted them to do more with how odd they were getting with it. But I did like it a lot. I had a lot of fun.
It reminded me a lot of Dead Money for New Vegas, where when Dead Money came out, no one liked it and they said it was shitty. But I think Dead Money's the best DLC just because it's such a fresh concept for Fallout. Dead Money's the one where it strips all your guns and stuff and just shoots you into this really hostile place where you have to escape. It's really fun.
Bi-weekly breakdown from me. My turn.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, what have I been doing? Last 2 weeks, lots of anime news, lots of shit's going on. Danny's Anime Corner.
Amine.
I started Senua's Sacrifice. Hellblade, very fucking good game. I'm liking it so much, Jim. I've taken some screenshots in that game. There's no HUD in it, and I'm playing on maxed settings and everything, and it's I'm doing 144 frames.
Yeah, I forgot to say that. You told me to buy Disco Elysium too, and I started that, and I'm really, really liking it.
Yeah, very fun game. Oh yeah, you bought Disco Elysium too. That's fantastic. That's a fucking amazing game.
Some good-ass games, yeah.
Yeah, started that. Big anime news. I finished Wonder Egg Priority. There's a new special coming out that wraps up the series in a couple months because the studio was having so many difficulties finishing it, so I
don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's this show. Skate the Infinity ended, and Skate the Infinity was amazing too.
The Infinity! Was that about Tony Hawk skating around the world?
It was about a bunch of Japanese guys and a Canadian guy that... It's basically a moe, which means like cutesy guy show. It wasn't a gay anime, but there were a lot of gay subtext and gay undertones in it.
Tasty.
It was very fucking good. That show was insanely good. I started My Hero Season 5, which is a big one of the series.
You and Pat were talking about that before, too.
Yeah, that just started last week, so the second episode was this week, going strong. I also started Megalobox Season 2 this week. Huge thing. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 6 anime was finally announced yesterday at like 2 a.m. or something Canadian time, because it was during a Japanese festival, so holy shit, that's fucking amazing. Because my JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Season 5 aired on 2018 to around the middle of 2019, so it's been about 2 years since anything's been talked about anime-wise. Everyone knew it was coming because they make a shit ton of money and everyone loves it.
Well, it takes a long time to make a show like that that's animated very well.
Yeah, so I was ecstatic because I love Part 6. I think it's my personal favorite, even though I think wildly regarded it's a lot of people's least favorites, but I like it quite a lot.
I should really watch that show.
Yeah.
I haven't done that yet.
Part 6, you got a lot of strong women. You got a lot. It's basically an all-female cast besides Weather Report and a guy named Poochie. It's a lot of all-females, big, strong female cast. They're set inside of a Florida prison, and there's a lot of weird shit that goes on, so I like it a lot.
Sounds like a fun premise.
But after that, lockdown, obviously. I'm finishing up school, so I've been pretty busy, actually, and then I've been working quite a bit, too. So it's been going good.
I forgot to say that me and you played stuff on Dolphin the other day, too.
Yes!
I never tried Dolphin before.
That was your first time. Wow.
Yeah, I'm a really big, you know me, I'm really like, I like original hardware and stuff, but like it was just so cool just playing those games up-res on the computer, like with no problems.
Full HD, 60 FPS, everything looks amazing except for the intro cinematics because they look like
they're still in 480, but everything else is in.
It looks amazing. It's crazy how you don't think that game is 15 years old when you play it, and it's like, wow, 20 years old or whatever. And it's like,
not,
wow.
Some of them.
And they look amazing, and we had no hitches playing. We played Super Mario, and this was before lockdown, everyone, so it's okay, and we all are safe, and we're not getting together again. But
we're not kissing during lockdown.
It was, we played some Super Mario Party 4, 5, and 7 maybe, or 4
I
and
think
7,
so.
some shit like that. We played some Kirby Air Ride, and everyone was
the worst game I've ever played.
Everyone was horrendously confused, and I love that game, so I won. And we played one round of Double Dash, but Cassie and Patrick were so drunk that they don't remember.
Yeah.
They say that we didn't, and we did. But
they drank so much that night. Holy shit.
Yeah, that was...
Throwing shade on them on Shout Out Back. Hear that, Pat, you drunk bastard?
Yeah, he drank a lot, Pat. He kept trying to grab my toes and crack my toes.
He cracked my toes.
Yeah,
my toes were cracked.
I weren't letting him do that. But that's the bi-weekly breakdown for
That's the end of that. Okay, so today's topic, this spicy-ass topic that you kept talking about, so I finally was like, okay, and I relented, and I picked it, was The Wolf House.
Yes.
Which was a Chilean film made a few years ago.
Yes, La Lobo.
A creepy-ass goddamn film that I watched, like, nigh on 3 or 4 hours ago.
Oh, very recently. Yeah, La Casa Lobo. Yeah, Chilean horror film. Horror in quotes
it's not
for me.
Really horror.
No, not
creepy.
at all in my opinion. It's
a creepy show. Yeah,
I believe it came out 2019, 2020, I think, in most places in the Western world.
So you had you had like introduced this movie to me. You hadn't seen it yet though. So where did you learn about this movie? Just through like osmosis or something?
So I learned about this movie from one of my favorite content creators, from Super Eyepatch Wolf, in one of his kind of biannual roundups. He does 2 videos. He does more than 2 videos a year, but he does two videos
seasonal.
Yeah, seasonal. He does like my favorite things summer and then my favorite things winter, and I believe this was in maybe the winter one from a year ago, or
I must have seen it just because I do watch his videos, so I must have just seen that and forgot.
Yeah, so I heard about it from there, and right when I saw it, I said, holy Christ, that sounds like something weird, and it looks bizarre, and I think I'd like it. And then I've kind of been on the lookout for it, and I think you told me that it was on Shudder, and then I got a little Shudder account. Yeah.
Shudder is like, I've talked about Shudder a lot, but Shudder is very good, not just for horror movies, but also like weird indie films that you hear about. Like I heard about this movie called Borders, and it's about like these weird people or whatever, but like I had heard about that movie, and I was like, oh, I want to see that, and then I was just on Shudder one day and it was on there. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll watch that on Shudder. It's not just horror movies, it's like weird indie films that you're like, yes, I'll see that one day. Well, now you can see them. The only thing bad about Shudder is they're owned by AMC, so I hope they don't just close when AMC does. So so you watched this the other day with your girlfriend, right?
I watched this, yeah, we've both watched this pretty recently. We're recording this very late into the 2-week cycle. Yeah. So it might be late by a day or something.
Easter Sunday. It's not going to be late, I'll get it.
No, you'll get it? Okay, it'll be on the dollar. Yeah.
It'll be Easter Monday.
Yeah, me and Cassie watched this. Yeah, about maybe a week ago.
So before I ask you what you think about this movie, what did Cassie think about this movie?
I think she liked it. She liked the visuals a lot, and she thought it was very interesting to look at, and a lot of parts were very disturbing and creepy. Yes. But it was the same as me. It was dragging a little bit near the end.
Near the end, yeah. The last 10 or 15 minutes, yeah, I felt that too.
It was a little draggy. It was a little weary. Like, it's a very abstract movie.
From the outset, this movie is about, let's talk about the plot.
Yes.
This movie is about a woman named Maria who goes in a house and finds some pigs and turns the pigs into people, and then the pigs are going to eat her, and then she leaves.
Yes, so
that's the movie.
Specifically, the plot is, like, did you know what the plot is? The actual, what she left from and stuff? The refugee?
Well, I just watching Longmire, and I just told you about that, and they had an episode where they talked to a bunch of, I don't know if they were Mennonites or Amish people or something, but it was a Germanic like group of people who had left Germany and went to another country in order to like, love Jesus and make some wood stuff.
Yeah.
So I was assuming it was sort of the same thing where there were a bunch of religious German immigrants who had like a cult or a convent basically in Chile.
Yeah.
And who this Maria escaped from. Is that what it was?
Yeah, so, and it's based on real things that did exist. These communities did exist. Maria escaped from a bunch, Germanic refugees that were religious fanatics, I believe, and they were around in World War II, I believe. They were kind of deeply ingrained with Nazism and Nazi culture and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So the general premise is that she either escapes or gets banished. It's kind of weird. It doesn't really
kind of
explain
amorphous.
It. Yeah. Basically, she leaves and she finds a house in the woods that is safe because there's a wolf outside apparently that's prowling around. So she goes inside of this house and there's 2 pigs there, and then that she seems to devolve into madness as the movie goes on and transforms them into humans, and the house becomes just her either psyche or world or something.
It's a very like abstract.
Yeah,
not only abstract in its visuals, but abstract in its, I think, themes too.
Yeah, me too.
We should say that, like, I think the biggest portion of this film is that the way the story is told, it's in a pseudo, I'm doing air quotes, a pseudo one-shot film. Like the majority of the film is in quote-unquote one shot.
Yeah.
It's a stop-motion art film where I think the first art style they use to tell the story and to show the characters and stuff is they like spray painted chalkboard all over this room and started doing chalk drawings that moved with stop motion all over the place. And then they like turn into paper mache dolls, and then they go into like paintings, and then it kind of mismatches everything together, like as the story goes on, where it gets more confused with what art style they're using. So where some characters in the scene might be paintings on the wall, and other characters might be paper mache dolls and stuff like that, but it kind of like mixes everything up. It's a very I would say it's a very disquieting choice to tell this story. Like, it's a very SpaghettiOs lizard brain, like that's a human shaped thing, but not really a human, so it's creepy. Kind of choice.
The first thing that jumped out to me is this movie. If you look at it and everything, it's tagged and described as a horror film, and I don't think it's a horror film by any stretch of the imagination. It is, if you don't like pretentious art movies, or you can't even stand them, I think this movie was it is definitely worth watching just for the fucking amount of work. I can't even imagine the amount of work and hours spent making the scenes.
What was your favorite, like, little contained scene in the movie? Because I have mine.
So, I very much liked when... I think it was near the beginning, just because I kept looking at the walls and the paint smear. Because the paper mache, it's creepy because you see it and it's like paper mache. It's creepier when you realize they're life-sized.
Yeah.
That's worse to me.
So you liked the scenes with Maria and Anna and Pedro sitting at the table?
I believe it was an opening scene when Maria put her jacket on one of the hooks on the wall, and they painted over the wall multiple times because she was moving around the room and she was moving around as a painting. Yeah, and you could see the fucking jacket was drenched.
That was one of my that's one of my favorite things in this movie too, is that, like, characters, they move if they pick stuff up and stuff like that, like paper mache dolls and stuff. But when someone is like a character is moving in the scene, like in the narrative of the story, they paint the walls so it's like a visual effect where they keep moving shit along the walls, like in their painting. Yeah. And they'll paint over. One of my favorite scenes too is they had a paper mache doll of Pedro who was like holding someone's hand, and then he leapt out of the fucking paper mache doll onto the wall and became a painting, and then moved away.
Yes.
And the mache doll didn't move. It was just part of the wall, and they painted over it with black, and then characters would move across it and stuff like that, like a moving picture. It's kind of like projecting is like a projector projecting something on a wall, but there's something on the wall like covering it, right? It kind of reminded me of that. It was so fucking weird.
Nothing. I can't imagine the goddamn smell. Like, the movie had backing by the Chilean government. I can't even imagine the fucking smell of that house after.
Of all that fucking paint and shit.
You could see the paint dripping off the walls and stuff at the end of each scene, and just things were drenched and dripping, and you could totally tell rooms would become unusable because they would go to a different room in the house. And they would like there and start the next scenes.
There was like a scene where Maria was sitting on a couch with the two pigs. Yeah. And then she got up, and the pigs got up, and they left. And then the fucking, like the paper mache couch flew off, and then it was a real couch, and then it was ripped into pieces, and then all the floorboard pieces came up and went away, and it was so fucking cool. I was reading on the Wikipedia page that they actually filmed this, like, in a bunch of different locations, like in art museums and shit like that. Like, they were filming in just disparaging, like, fucking weird places.
Yeah, before we get into what I didn't really love about it, I would say it deserves a watch just for the amount of effort and work these people would have went through to make this. I don't even know where or how you would have begun storyboarding any of these goddamn scenes.
It would have to be, if I had to guess, like, I don't know, these two dudes directed the film might have been like, yes, it was our vision the whole time to storyboard it like this, but it must have been like they had a plot, and
just
then
loose moments you have to connect.
Yeah, if I was doing this, I'd just be like, okay, I'm making the head today, and I do the head scene over like 8 days, and then I like just put that all together and whatever. Because there's a lot of scenes too that were like shot a certain way, and then they were run backwards in the movie. Like, you saw the clocks in the room like moving backwards as time went on. They must have spent like 20% of their budget on candles that just would go
holy shit,
zip into the ground as the fucking scenes were going on.
You didn't really have a solid timeline of how quick things were going until you saw a candle that was 10 inches long burned to the bottom of its wick in 20 seconds.
Less than that, like 3 seconds.
It would just go and it'd be replaced instantaneously. And the moments you did see clocks moving forward, you're like, holy shit, they spent an hour and a half moving a person's arm up an inch on the wall.
Yeah. I would think that like regular movies are 24 frames a second. So I don't know if they did that for this film, like they did 24 frames a second. That would be insane.
Yeah, they must not have.
I gotta say, the other thing that I love about this movie, and I don't know if you picked it. How did you watch this movie? Just on your TV?
Yeah, we watched it on TV.
Okay, so I watched this on my computer with my really nice headphones, and the sound design in this movie was fucking amazing.
Oh yeah,
it was so fucking good.
It was haunting. Especially how the main actor, I was looking up what his name was, the person who played the wolf, I guess.
The wolf? Yeah.
Rainer Krauss. I'm probably butchering that name. Maybe not.
Rainer Krauss.
His take on just saying, he didn't have many words besides saying, like, Maria, just over and over, things like that, and doing a lot of exposition. His voice was very haunting if you were in a house and you heard it.
Well, it was, the voices were really, really good. Like, the 4 characters who talk, their voices are really good. Yep. But it was also, like, because this was added in post, obviously, because it didn't happen, like, they did the stop motion, this didn't go on set. But it was, like, the sound of the wet fucking paper mache just, like, appearing on characters' arms as they moved and, like, moving around and shit like that. It looked like spiders. And, like, the candles we talked about zooping into the ground and, like, shit being moved around and shit like that. And with the walking and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like, I have not heard a film in a long time that used 3D space like this a lot too, where characters would move from one room to the other as they'd be talking, and then shit would like move around and all that stuff, and it was so cool to listen to.
Yeah, so talking about what we liked and didn't like, what stuck out to you as something you really didn't care for? Because it wasn't a long movie, it was just over an hour. It was like an hour 10.
I feel like they could have cut this movie's only 70 minutes long without the credits, so I feel like they could have cut probably 10 minutes out of it.
Me too. Yeah.
The stuff that made me kind of bored was when she was talking about like how good the human pig characters were and shit like that. Like I wish that things moved in the plot a little bit faster.
Yeah, like it's very abstract. We talked about that. I think it was almost a little too abstract for its own good.
Do you think so? Do you think that it's a little it like goes over that border of nonsensicality where you just get pissed off with it? Because I get that sometimes too.
I might be speaking for her, but I don't. Cassie told me that she did not get any of the plot from this movie. She didn't really grasp what was happening. And neither did I at the end. I didn't really...
I feel like I have a brain for deciphering like bit by bit what the plot was even in an abstract movie like this. Yeah. Like Eraserhead. Have you watched Eraserhead?
No, I haven't. I really need to. That's David Lynch, right?
Yeah, comparing these two movies, and we've talked about David Lynch before, but comparing these two movies, I think that Eraserhead has more of a plot than, like, more of an understandable plot than The Wolf House, but it has a less understandable ending. Like, I feel like David Lynch does a good job of like blending like this is what's happening and also this is some fucked up shit that's also happening that's more to do with emotions and carrying you through the movie than the characters. Rather than The Wolf House, that was just like, we're doing creepy shit and it's an hour long.
Yeah. I was expecting the wolf to be a metaphorical representation of her father almost. Yeah. But I don't know if it was. I think it was just a wolf. Like
I think that at the end it says that she just went back.
Yeah,
so
she just went. Yeah.
This way this movie is framed is kind of like Rocky Horror, where not Rocky Horror. I forget what movie I'm thinking about, but it's a movie that Rocky and Bullwinkle with the two Russian people throwing guns at them. It's like a found footage movie almost. It's almost like a Blair Witch, where the movie starts with like, this movie was found in our community, in the German religious community, and with the help of the Chilean government, we are putting it on. Anyway, I think it was the same voice of the guy who did the wolf. Yeah, but at the end, the end of the movie was like, yes, Maria just went back to the fucking cult and just stayed with them, and everything was good, and she helped raise the children.
Yeah.
So I think the wolf represented like just because a lot of people
just
who
the
like
danger of the outside world.
Well, no, I think it was the danger of just going back because you're afraid. Because a lot of things that happen with people who join cults is that like some of them leave, right? But they still have that craving for like communal living and being told what to do and shit like that. So I think the wolf was more like. The wolf was representative of like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go back because life is hard.
Yeah, I understand that. Me and Cassie were talking even a few weeks ago about full-time students and why people like why people would optionally continue to take college classes for up to a decade or two when they're 30 and 40. Yeah. And I do think it is a lot of the same thing. It's just you have very strict guidelines of this is how you do good. You just pass these classes, you get good marks. That's all you're expected to do. Whereas when you're done school, you're expected to do a lot more, and it's very non-rigid about your standards of performance.
Yeah, when you're done school, it's more like, well, a lot of people struggle this too because one, capitalism is fucked, it doesn't work, and two, we're in COVID, so a lot of people like aren't achieving their career goals based on school and all that shit too right now, so it's tough. But yeah, I mean, I had that feeling too because I stayed in grade 13 when I was younger because I didn't want to go to college yet because I was afraid, and I knew that staying in high school for another year is going to be really easy. I feel like people have that in them where people, like human beings, strive to like achieve things and stuff like that, but we also strive to be comfortable.
Yeah, everyone does a routine. Jim and Danny comparing murderous sect cults to college.
They're really the same thing. How does this movie compare to like other weird movies you've seen?
Yeah, I was thinking if this movie really does. That's what I was kind of thinking about today. If I could bring up any movies that reminded me of this, and I don't really know if I can. Like,
I feel like it's reminded me of a lot of like the feeling I got from it was a lot of like ARG stuff. Like it reminded me a little bit of, and I don't know if you ever heard this about Alan Tutorial. Where
you've
heard of that?
Yeah, that's
It reminded me of the end of Alan Tutorial where he's literally like the character is stuck inside like a room and he's been abandoned and he's just like covering the room in fucking paint and like locked the lights out. He's just like screaming in a room. Remind me of that a little bit. Some of the same like weird feelings.
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of ARGs like Marble Hornets and shit like that like 10 plus years ago that were about like there's something going on in the woods and you're running around in there and you don't know what's happening. Like a lot of this movie gives up those feelings of like I don't know what's going on and I'm afraid.
Yeah.
In terms of like movies, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's
there was nothing that I could really compare it to. Like I'm really trying to rack my brain and figure out if there was anything I've seen that's like this. And you're a huge movie buff. I don't think I am by any means, but I also do watch some odd stuff and try and watch things that aren't mainstream. I don't really watch a lot of mainstream movies, but
I think that there's a line, right? There's a line between something like David Lynch where it's weird and kind of cult-like or cult film or whatever, but it's still kind of mainstream. And like when we went to that high school art show and we saw like videos of rain hitting a
filling
fucking
up with water and then a chair on fire and then a curtain being pulled down and there's a mannequin standing there and then that's the end of the movie. It
like the Wolf House is kind of between those two camps of like art house movie with that's digestible, I'd say, like something that you can grab a hold onto and it won't be too confusing, and like stupid art kid nonsense.
I'm looking at their IMDb. I want to see how much money this movie made because my god, I bet they didn't make their fucking money on it.
Well, I don't know if they spent a lot of money on the movie because with the advent of digital cameras that can do basically like you can go out and spend $5,000 on a camera that does as much as a movie camera, like a real movie camera does, and it's literally just like a bunch of furniture they reuse and props they reuse. Like that ceramic elephant in the movie was used like 800 times in every scene, and a lot of shit like that. So they probably just had like a truck full of shit that they used in the movie and then just moved stuff around to wherever they could make the movie or whatever. And didn't cost them too much money. I don't know if they'd release like stuff like that.
It doesn't like I'm really skeptical of IMDb's listing here because I'm going to tell you what it says and I don't think this is true at all. IMDb says the budget for this movie was $245,000 estimated. I don't think that's right, even in the fucking slightest.
Well, it might have been that might have encompassed like these two guys had to pay their job, like live while they were making the movie. So they probably like were fundraising. And then you have to like try to sell your movie too to make money back too. So some of that might have been in there as well.
And the other thing it says is the cumulative worldwide gross is just shy of $2,000. So I don't think that would
be like, see, that's so stupid because that would be like, yes, we have this art festival where we put our movie at where they like 200 people paid for a ticket to watch it, but then it's on streaming service, like it's on Shudder, and I'm assuming sell it somewhere else online too, right? So they don't count the money from that. So I'm assuming they made their money back.
I would hope so.
What is your like? I'm trying to think of like what is your takeaway from this movie, Dan? Like, what do you think was the defining feature that really stuck out for you? Like, what are you going to remember about this movie?
The aesthetic. This movie had an aesthetic unlike anything I'd ever seen. And I don't know, like, I know you can practice and get good at things, but I don't know if I have the capability in me to make a movie like this in the slightest. I don't think I could even sit down and think about making something like this.
I think that, like, have you ever made paper mache dolls and stuff? Like,
yeah, did the whole paper mache around the balloon. You pop the balloon, you have a thing, yeah.
So I definitely noticed, and I don't know if you did this too, but like the work with the paper mache dolls and the set constructing and all that stuff got way better as the movie went on. Did you notice that?
Really? Huh. I did not.
The first few scenes with Maria as a paper mache doll are like, it's a paper mache doll, like it does, whatever. But the ones near the end, like with Anna and Pedro and Maria all together, and the different scales of the models and all that shit, you could really tell that they were really getting a handle on, like, oh yes, put this together, we can move this or that, whatever. And it looked a little more cohesive than it did at the beginning. So, like, when people make movies, they get better as they go along. Same thing with this when you're doing the set dressing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's all about practice with everything else, right? Too. I'd be excited to see if these two guys make another. I don't know if it would be like another weird outhouse movie or something. Or yeah, that looks like a fucking sex dungeon. That
I just sent Jim a picture of it's on the IMDb listing of Pedro in a little tiny chair. I talked to Casa halfway through this movie because obviously this movie was filmed over the course of weeks and months, I'm sure. And I talked to her and I was like, imagine a Chilean homeless dude wandering in on this in the middle of the night to try
that
to
scene
sleep
starts
in
too
the
with
house.
with Pedro's little paper mache doll, like naked with his little fucking paper mache penis
Yeah,
sticking up.
they made a little paper mache penis for him.
And then so he's sitting on a toilet in this scene, and then like Maria comes in and he like magically has clothes spun on him, and then the toilet flies apart and it turns into a wooden chair. It's so fucking strange. What are some other themes you got from this movie? Because it's about like motherhood, trying to build your own life.
I don't understand where that came in. Do you think that these pigs were created into humans just because she's from a cult and she wanted community around her that she could be with?
I think so. I think it's talking about like how, I think this is a movie about how human beings, like how the directors perceive human beings as working, like how they function in a group. So Maria was on her own. She had two pigs. She turned them into people to have other people with her to be in a family unit. And then at the end, they ran out of food, but they don't want to go outside, so the other two try to eat Maria, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was another topic. Yeah, at the end, the pigs turned on her and wanted to eat her, and then she wanted to go back to the cult.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty cynical film. I think it's a pretty cynical view of like how human beings work, because it's also like talking about the framework of this movie too, how it starts really cheery and then ends really cheery too, and then the struggle in the middle of those two things is this woman trying to find something outside of the cult and trying to find her own way in her own life, and how it just is destroyed and becomes corrupted and shit like that. Like, that's very telling of how these two people wanted to portray human beings,
just
right?
View the world. It's very interesting. I'm sure those people have a lot that they could talk to you about.
And too, like, that still was, I mean, it looks like a fucking like basement, like sex dungeon where you keep like like you keep like human traffic people in. Like, it's really disturbing.
Good God.
The imagery.
Yeah, I would tell anyone to watch this movie if you can. It's only an hour long. You're not taking up 2 hours, 2.5 hours, or whatever.
No.
Watch it, but don't expect it. You'll know if it's for you by watching any of the trailers for it.
What is another like movie sort of similar to this where it gave you like a very unpleasant feeling?
I mean, horror genre, not a huge thing people aren't gonna know. Hereditary made me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that movie actually like made me want to throw up. That scene, I'm going to spoil this, so go ahead.
Yeah, it's a couple years old.
Spoiled. But that scene where that girl's head came off with the telephone pole, I almost actually threw up, like, watching that fucking shit. Like, that was so fucking disturbing to me. And I don't know why. It was probably the build-up and stuff, but, yeah. I think another movie that gave me, like, these sort of same feelings of unease was that movie that you watched with Cassie where you were like, this movie's fun, was Splice.
Oh, yeah. Splice was very grotesque and disturbing at the end of the movie, especially. Oh Christ! Spoilers. It's fucking 14 years old. I bet.
For people who don't know, Splice is like a mid to late 2000s Canadian horror movie starring Adrian Brody and another girl, a Canadian actress. But it's about these two scientists who like use a human genome or something to make like a fucking monstrous beast, like a monstrous like alien creature in their lab, and they start raising it as their own child. But the way this thing is designed is so uncanny valley. Like, it's a CGI monster. It's basically an actress with CGI shit on her, and it's so uncanny valley. Like, it makes you just like want to die watching the movie. Like, I fucking hate that thing.
Yeah, where it got me because the thing that they make is created with the wife's genome that she doesn't tell the husband.
Yeah, it's basically her baby.
Yeah, it's essentially her kid, and then it has sex with the husband, which is already, you're crossing a line I don't think you're supposed to cross.
Again, going with those same, like, the thematic things in these horror movies, too. A lot of it has to do with, like, sex stuff, but a lot of it has to do with, like, corruption of something innocent.
Yeah.
Or like, bad stuff like incest and shit like that, too.
Yeah. Very not gonna... I like that movie quite a lot just because of how weird it was, but I don't think it's a great...
I don't think it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I brought up... I screenshot a conversation about it when we were talking about it over Messenger. You said, Cassie and I are watching Splice, and I think I was drinking, and I said, bad movie. Real bad. Shite, in fact. And you said, Alafameo, we're enjoying it. Makes you want to vomit. If I saw that thing, I'd burn it. And then I said, it's like weird bad. Hurts your stomach bad. Bad in a way where it hurts you and you don't know what's wrong. And you said, if I saw that thing, I'd smash its head on the curb. If I saw that thing, I'd eject it into space.
I was just thinking, this movie, the art house aspects of it, just because of how abstract it was, really made me think of, what was it called? A couple years ago, Ghost Story, or A Ghost Story?
Oh, the one with...
the one where she ate the pie on the ground in a whole scene.
I hate that movie.
A Ghost Story.
Yeah,
I think
like
A Ghost Story's trailers were very cool and very good, but I think the actual movie, at least in my opinion, was again so abstract to the point where...
I thought that movie was pretentious.
Yeah, I wanted something more like solid from it.
Yeah, that same director made another movie with the same two actors. Something Mara and Ben Affleck's brother. It's called Ain't Them Bodies Saints, I think.
Good Lord.
And I watched that movie a few years ago, and it was more of a straightforward plot. Like it was more of a plot-driven film.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it because it was boring. And I feel like I would feel the same way about A Ghost Story.
You never watched that, eh? Did you?
I watched
you
the
watched
first.
It, right?
I watched the first 30 or 40 minutes and then I shut it off.
Yeah, I can feel that. It was a very pretty movie. Like, he's a very good director by cinematography,
very good
standards and everything. But it was very... If I catch myself going on my phone near the end of your movie, I'm just... You've almost lost me there. Like,
there's like, when I sit and I watch a movie, like when I watched The Wolf House today, I sat and I watched it all the way through and I didn't do anything else. I didn't look at my phone.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't leave and come back. I watched it all the way through. It was enthralling to me. Enthralling enough to not leave.
Yeah. 100%.
Whereas A Ghost Story made me fucking bored, made me pissed off when that hipster in that movie started talking about, like, death or something and how it was like a fucking something or other, and I was just like, this is stupid, and I just shut it off. I feel like it's hard to make a movie. This is just tangent. I feel like it's hard to make a movie about death without it seeming kind of pretentious, unless it's like a stupid action movie. If you're trying to make a movie about entropy or something like that, like being dead and being a ghost or something, and it's not like a horror, not a conventional movie, like an art house movie. It's really hard to grab me as a watcher because I don't have any interest in that stuff, and I don't think it's a good thing to base a movie around. Do you have anything like that where you just like see a genre, you see like a plot structure, or you hear the plot about something, you're like, I'm not gonna fucking like that?
About like specific
anything,
just anything.
Yeah.
Let me think. I don't.
Maybe that's just me. Maybe I've just seen so many movies that I pick up on things that piss me off.
I don't know. I mean, thematically, I don't really care about, like, westerns and shit like that.
See,
like,
I'm the exact opposite. I love westerns.
Like, I don't really care about westerns too much. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch something with that. But other than that, I'm pretty open to watch or try anything. It doesn't really matter what it is.
I feel like that's a fault in my character too, where I'm just like, I'm not gonna watch that, and then sometimes I watch stuffing that I'm quote unquote not gonna like, and I do enjoy it. That being said, I watched Cowboys and Aliens for the first time again a few weeks ago, and I still fucking love that movie. That movie's good as hell.
That's the one from a couple years ago where the cowboy finds an alien wrist gun thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got such a good cast, and it's directed by Jon Favreau. It's so fun. It's just got a stupid name. That's why people don't like it.
Jim, can I tell you one thing?
Sure.
I looked up movies similar to La Casa Lobo, The Wolf House, and number 16th on the list for this website that I'm sure auto-generates them is the Smurfs Christmas Special. I don't know why. I don't know how that would get in there.
It might give you another existential crisis like The Wolf House, yeah.
I just think that's very odd. Because I'm just trying to look at movies that are like this, because I don't really think there is one. I think this is a very non-traditional Western movie. Like, I don't think Americans or Canadians could make a movie like this. I think this is very, very a product of the area.
I feel like there's a cultural difference,
100%.
cultural distance when I'm watching this too. Because I feel, that being said though, I feel like I have watched a lot of art house movies that are trying to do something like this, but this one really stuck out to me because it's saying some of the themes that we talk about in this podcast, but it's different. It clearly had a lot of effort in it, and it was interesting.
Yeah.
And the worst thing your movie can be is uninteresting.
Yeah. I mean, what other movies have you watched lately, if you want to talk about that for a sec? Me and Cass have been watching quite a bit of movies. I
guess it's just expanding on the bi-weekly breakdown, but I watched this movie called Us and Them, which is a Chinese movie, a Chinese romance movie on Netflix, and I really, really like that too. I've been trying to watch more foreign stuff and more Canadian stuff. That really piques my interest because, yeah, I guess movies are dead now, and we gotta find what we can during COVID.
Did you ever watch Train to Busan?
It's on my list. I haven't watched it yet.
They're remaking Train to Busan with a bunch of white people and in English for some reason. Don't know why.
Awesome. I'm sure it'll be Liam Neeson. I'm sure Liam Neeson will be a disgruntled father, and then he'll be on a train to Busan.
But yeah, I was gonna say, me and Cassie we've watched some pretty shitty movies lately. We watched a movie on Netflix yesterday called Centigrade, and it was about a true story where two people were trapped in their car in Norway when there was a snowstorm. And that movie was shit. It was boring as all hell. And then we watched the new movie with, oh god, what was it? He had Road Rage, Unhinged.
Oh, with Russell Crowe.
With Russell Crowe. That movie has a 6 out of 10 by a bunch of people, and Rotten Tomatoes is about halfway. That movie pissed me off with how fucking stupid it was.
Yeah, it's a rare movie that really makes me fucking mad.
It made me mad.
I watch it.
Finishing that movie made me upset. It made me angry with how much time I just wasted.
Another movie like that I watched a long time ago, but I still remember, is Synecdoche, New York. Look that one up.
Synecdoche?
Yeah, Synech, and you'll get it. ODE, I think. Synecdoche, New York. It is I like Charlie Kaufman movies. That's not true. I like half of the Charlie Kaufman movies that he makes, and that one is the worst. I fucking hate that movie. It is the most pretentious piece of shit I have ever seen. It is right next to Mother ! With the movies that I fucking
you didn't
hate.
Like that movie either.
But that being said, like, what other horror weird films would you recommend for people who enjoyed watching The Wolf House this week?
I would say horror films. One that always sticks to me when I think about horror films is a movie called The Taking of Deborah Loren. I really liked that movie. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No.
That's a very good movie. It's about a woman that gets possessed by an evil spirit, I believe, when they're filming a dementia documentary about her. That's quite interesting. Other horror movies, though. Horror's a genre I really like, but I haven't...
Well, what about, like, creepy stuff? Because this wasn't a creepy movie.
Yeah.
Or this wasn't a horror movie. It was more of, like, a creepy, weird movie that makes you feel weird. I think one that I'd recommend like that, I'd say watch Splice, because that movie made me feel really weird. But another movie like that is Lost Highway, which is a David Lynch movie. Probably one of his worst, but it has that weird feeling in spades. Like, it made me feel gross watching that movie, and it kind of was the same feeling that I got from The Wolf House.
I'm just trying to look up. There's a movie that I am... Slither. That's the movie that I wanted to say.
What the fuck is Slither?
You've never seen Slither, really?
Slither.
I think Slither has a cult following now because people realized it is very, very creepy and good, and it's basically about an alien organism that comes to the small town by a meteorite.
Does that have fucking what's his name? Nathan Fillion in it?
Yes, it has Nathan Fillion in it. Yeah,
that
Slither's
movie
weird.
Also made me feel bad.
Yeah,
when I watched that movie,
creepy, disgusting movie.
Yeah, it made me feel gross, and that's what James Gunn directed that. That's what kind of movies James Gunn used to make before he was a Marvel man. He made fucking gross indie horror films that give me that kind of gave me the same feeling as The Wolf House did, where it like hurts your brain watching it.
Last thing I wanted to say about movies. Do you know anything about this weird Suicide Squad trailer that they're just kind of remaking Suicide Squad from a couple of years ago because
it's Suicide Squad 2. It's Suicide Squad 2.
Is it a soft reboot?
I think yes, it's a soft reboot, but I think the thing about the Suicide Squad is it's never the same people for every mission. So it's always a different group of people.
Just make a new movie.
I don't know if they know what they're doing with that DC stuff.
No,
I like
it doesn't
Shazam. I like Shazam a lot, and that's the best movie I've seen of them. Man of Steel was awful, and I never watched any other ones except for Wonder Woman.
I'm surprised at how well Zack Snyder's Justice League is doing.
Well, we're going on a big tangent before we end, but yeah, I think that the problem with that movie, with the Justice League movie, from what I've heard, is that like it's just stupid. And
it's still a bad movie at the end of the day. It's just
but the stuff they added to it in the original cut and made it worse.
Yeah, very
I wanna wrap up now because we went on some tangents before we finish. So, what is your final thoughts on The Wolf House, Dan?
Final thoughts on The Wolf House? I would recommend it to anyone. If you watch, just look up a trailer on YouTube. You'll know if you care to watch it in 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. You'll definitely know it's not for you or it is for you. I would say watch it just for the amount of work that was put into it because every scene is amazing to look at and it's very interesting to just watch the movie unfold. You might walk away and not know what happened in it, but I think it's still definitely worth a watch.
It'll stick with you.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I would say give it a try, even if you put it on the background or something, or you're doing something else and you or like working on something and you have it on your other screen or something on your phone and you kind of look back and forth. You could take it in like that too because the plot's not really strong. I think it's good enough to watch for the visuals and stuff like
100%,
that.
100%.
So, so this is the end. This is the ending section of the Shack Out Back podcast. So what are we doing next week, Dan? It's your topic.
So I think if you're down for it, next week I would like to talk about, I don't think we've done this. I want to talk about content creators that we look at and we take in and that have shaped our time on the internet.
Do you want to be more specific, like a certain website or something?
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about YouTubers specifically and podcasts specifically.
YouTubers and podcasts?
Yeah,
okay.
That have kind of shaped us.
I can definitely do that because not only like I've been watching YouTube for over 10 years. Not only have people like shape me in terms of like the work that they do, but they also shape me in like my personality and the stuff I find funny.
100%.
That's a good ass topic, and you're falling asleep, so we're gonna stop the podcast right here.
I'm getting tired. It's lockdown sleeps.
Lockdown sleeps. Well, good night, Dan.
Good night, Jimbo. Door creaks closed. Fire fades.
Crackles.
Good night, darling.
Goodbye, Jim.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Dan.
Good night, everybody.